So before we call the meeting to order, we have some very special presentations to make. We are recognizing our two Board of Selectmen members from the prior term because we figured a year later and missing them, it's a really good time to do this. So first I'd like to talk a little bit about Tom Flynn. Tom Flynn served on the Board of Selectmen from 2019 to 2023. And everyone who watched Board of Selectmen meetings over the 14 years that he was on that board and 10 as chair knows that he brought a significant finance and management angle and expertise to that board. Tom is has not only been a CEO and a CFO, but like myself, started his career as a trained CPA. I was at KPMG. Tom started at Pricewaterhouse, so what he did on that board was bring a lot of financial, like a new way of looking at financial management and controls, and making sure that our reserves and contingencies were appropriate for a town this size, and the way that we looked at capital project management and other very important measures in order to maintain our AAA rating, which was done over his whole tenure. And he's also, I think, still a board member of Connecticut Green Bank, and served on the State Property Tax Cap Commission. Is that? Yeah. So Tom has been an incredibly dedicated public servant in Fairfield, and we thought it was really important to talk a little bit about that today. And I would invite, after myself, anyone else who would like to say a few words, but I don't think people really appreciate the amount of time a Board of Finance chairman spends on town matters. It's all consuming at times. It's like a second job, or sometimes even a first job. I would say that the only other board where I would really say that would be Board of Ed. So there's two types of chairmanships in this town that where people do not get paid, and the person to my left knows this. It's all consuming, and so to find somebody with that skill set willing to do that job is we are very, very grateful. So would anyone else like to say any words, or David?
Yeah, no, I would add, I mean, now in my current role and interacting with, the Board of Finance, the amount of time a chair does spend and serving with you on that board, and then being able to watch you over the last few years while you were on this board, and just your entire tenure, you've put an unbelievable amount of time into serving, and just for someone said, it's a huge effort and more overall personal expense per se of time than anything on the volunteer boards, and I appreciate that. So I'm sure that you should.
So, Nancy.
Well, I would like to say something about my former colleague on the Board of Selectmen.
Oh no.
Yes. No. While I don't miss sitting in this room serving, what it is reminding me of is importance of the work that gets done in here. I'm grateful for the people that came before my tenure, before our tenure. And I'm certainly grateful for all the people that will come after. It's incredibly important work, and I saw that, and what I really appreciated and appreciate now in hindsight, certainly in the climate as things are getting more explosive, how we were able, Tom, you and I were able to disagree, which I think record will show we did often, but we did so with respect. And I always felt heard and supported in my questioning, and you allowed for those discussions to happen. And that wasn't always the case, but I appreciated that was how you approached the work. And so I just wanted to say that I do know how much effort and time and personal commitment goes into the service. So I thank you for it. And I hope you're enjoying not serving.
I don't think Tom's done.
I just
Oh, go ahead.
I first met Tom when I was just a parent, writing to the Board of Finance, advocating for a Dwight boiler. And I think there was some debate about what year, could it wait a year? And Tom just took the time to reach out and educate me and listen to my concerns, and so appreciative of just this random mom who just had concerns and how willing you were to engage. And as I moved into public service and served on the Board of Ed, and you and I had many discussions in our role as chairs, I always think about that moment, and thank you for serving as a role model in terms of engaging the public and serving as an example for public.
Did you approve the boiler?
No comment.
Next year.
It was one of those conversations, maybe I should run.
Well, that was his intent. Well,
No, but
we'd
it was-
like to, sorry.
No.
That's funny.
Thanks, Sam.
Thank you, both. I appreciate it very much. If I might, first of all, thank you for your service. Bill, thank you for yours. Nancy, it was great to work with you. We did disagree a lot, but we were never disagreeable. And the reason I listened to you, you always had something worthwhile to listen to and changed my thinking sometimes. So thank you for that. David, it was a pleasure to work with you for all those years. And I've really admired what you've done since you've taken on your current positions with the town. I think you've done it with integrity and set a good standard. So thank you for that as well. As I said, when our term here ended, it was a privilege and an honor. And the town gave me much more than I could have given it. And I would do it all over again. So thank you.
So you just hinted that you're ready to do all over.
Don't read into it.
So sitting next to or either virtually or in the room, Nancy Lefkowitz. So Nancy Lefkowitz also served on the Board of Selectmen from 2019 to 2023. But I have to point out the fact that before that she was on the RTM, and not, this isn't to be political, but there is something about Nancy that people need to know. She's the first Democrat that was able to win in her district, a very conservative district. She persuaded a large group of Republicans to vote for her as a Democrat. And I think you were the first to win in that district in like 50 years or something like that, which really is Nancy in a nutshell. She brought to the Board of Selectmen, she brought a different perspective. She was always looking at health, safety, including gun safety, but safety in general, inclusiveness, and just caring about the Fairfield community. Nancy will consider all points of views. And I know that she will consider points of views that sometimes I wouldn't, but she will listen very, very carefully to people and consider them, doesn't jump to conclusions, and then, ultimately, that's her point of view, but respectful. And like I said, prior to the RTM, she was on the Board of Finance and was instrumental in passing two important ordinances. One was the ban of
RTM.
RTM.
What did I say?
Board of Finance.
RTM I meant. One was the banning of single-use plastic bags in Fairfield, which now I think we've all gotten used to. I remember some of the challenges to that when someone dug out a study done by a grad student at Loma Linda University saying that it wasn't a good idea to do this because of salmonella found in a reusable plastic bag. Well, we got it done. And I think basically most towns have followed suit. The other was limiting banning the discharge of guns in certain areas of town, which I think was pretty common sense and passed. Is it unanimous? Unanimously. As on the Board of Selectmen, Nancy pushed for and championed and then co-chaired the Racial Equity and Justice Task Force, which came up with a list of recommendations, which today we are still using as our ultimate goal. So it was, whilst many of those things were not implemented right away, I think over time they will be implemented. So Nancy's a very good friend of mine, one of the kindest people I know, one of the most caring people I know, and we were really fortunate to have you on the Board of Selectmen. So thank you. Anyone want to say anything about Nancy? Yes.
Well, Nancy's a friend of mine also, and it is such an honor to serve as a selectman. Me following both of these noble public servants' footsteps. But Nancy is a champion for all. If there's an underdog, they should have Nancy on speed dial because she will make sure that they have a voice. I always look to her for an inclusive voice, an inclusive viewpoint, trying to bring many different voices to the table to lift us all up. So thank you for all of your work and for serving as a role model for me and today. So happy to celebrate you both today.
I should say that Nancy also brings brought significant management experience to the job and is used to dealing with people who have high expectations like movie stars in her work with the Tribeca Film Festival. Yeah, Tom.
Yeah, what was interesting was I didn't know Nancy at all before I served with her. We became friends pretty quickly on that board. And the diversity of opinions that we had, I think, led to better decisions. Certainly some strong discussions, but I think better decisions for the board and therefore better decisions for the town. And I appreciate the fact that we're still friends, even though our service is over, and stay in touch with each other, largely commenting on what you guys are doing. I'm kidding. No, but thank you. And thanks to the first selectman for recognizing both of us today. And Christine, you as well. And Brenda, should she have been able to be here. Most appreciated.
And I also thank you so much for those kind words, and I'm so glad this is recorded so I can play for my children so that they know that there's something going on and how I spent my time. I want to take a moment to also thank the chief of police because the work that the police department does, the fire department, having had a front row seat of the decisions that get made and being on the end of budgetary decisions that impact the work that they do. I'm really appreciative, and I know I speak for a community when I say that, and for really all the town employees who are here and working and giving of their time, and the many volunteers. The takeaway for me, and as I said, I don't miss this aspect of the work, but what was really just incredibly fulfilling and a great privilege, as you said, to use your word, is to see how much people are giving unsung. They don't get recognized. They're not necessarily doing the work out in public, but all the hard work that goes into it to keep the functioning of the town. And that was really an incredible thing to see. So, and I thank you both, and I thank in her absence, I don't know if she's online, Selectman Kupchak. So thank you for this. This is really nice. It doesn't take much, so I appreciate even this. So really, thank you.
There we go. Yeah, there you go.
It's really nice.
Oh, there you go. Here's my hug.
Nice.
You know,
Can we get a picture of the four of us? Yes. I saw the camera.
Get a million too.
All right. No, you didn't. I know, right?
Back up, Tom.
Thank you. All right,
Thanks, Tom.
thanks so
Thanks,
much.
Dan.
Unfortunately, I have to run.
All right, take
So,
care.
And this is where you say you don't have to stay for the rest of the. No, sorry.
Everybody.
Happy Thanksgiving.
Happy Thanksgiving, everybody.
Thanksgiving. So, welcome to the Board of Selectmen meeting, Monday, November 25th, 2024. Let's all rise for the Pledge of Allegiance to be led by Jen Carpenter.
Okay, I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, first item, 2024, the Youth Conservation Awards presentation. Tim Bishop, our Conservation Commissioner, will give a brief summary and ask, and we'll hand out the certificates, which is very good.
Thank you. I have three commissioners that formed our Conservation Commission subcommittee, that were part of the decision-making process. Commissioner O'Mahony, Commissioner Boucher, and Commissioner Hood. This is a new award and kind of a new program for the Conservation Commission to recognize youth in town that are actively, I'd like to read it here. In recognition and thanks to our dedication to safeguarding animal species, restoring ecosystems, and inspiring communities to learn, value, and protect our planet's biodiversity. This is the first ever Youth Conservation Award, and hopefully more to come, but presented by the Conservation Commission. I'm gonna also call up Mary Hogue. Yeah, come on up. Sponsored and initiated the nomination for Soraya.
This is Rick's brainchild here.
And if Selectman Gerber would come up and present the award. Very nicely done.
Really nicely done. So, would you like to read it?
Yeah,
Okay, so members of the Conservation Commission, Fairfield proudly honor Sriya Mathakuri with the the Youth Conservationist Award for 2024 in recognition and thanks of her dedication to safeguarding animal species, restoring ecosystems, and inspiring communities to learn, value, and protect our planet's biodiversity. So, congratulations. Thank you for all your work. Why don't you get in the middle? Or maybe we should move.
That'd be good.
okay.
Let's hold it a little straight. There we go. Very nice. Last one. Everyone look here. Thank you.
Congrats.
Thank you.
That's awesome. Thank you. That's great. Commissioner Brown.
Thank you.
Thanks. Take care, Commissioner Boucher. Very good. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Tim. So next up, we have
Congratulations.
congrats. Yeah, congrats. Next up, we have Police Chief Bob Calamares. A, to hear, consider, and act on approving a grant agreement between the Connecticut Department of Transportation Highway Safety Office and the town of Fairfield for Fairfield Police Chiefs Click It or Ticket Enforcement Program, and to further approve acceptance of the grant funds and their appropriation for the purposes set forth in the grant agreement. You have a motion? Second. Chief.
So this is federal funds in the amount of $9,900
$92.30, allocated for clicker ticket enforcement from November 28th, 2024 until June 1st, 2025. There's several waves that go on during the year that we're reallocating resources and staffing to enforce clicker ticket violations.
Any questions?
Do you, some of this track data, do you have ages, like further breakdown? Like 31 unbelted crashes, 31 in 2023? Just kind of curious.
So what we do is before we deploy resources, we go out and do an evaluation. We sit at an intersection and we watch cars go by and we just check off whether they're wearing it or not. Usually it comes out to a percentage, and then that percentage is then we do another evaluation post operation, and we determine if it had an effect on the driver's wearing seatbelts or not.
And in terms of the media activity that you're required to take part in as part of the grant, do you have anything planned or?
Yeah, what we usually do is we put it out on social media. In fact, I think one just released today. If I'm not mistaken, yeah.
I haven't been on social media, I've been working for that.
Yeah, I think I
Check it
got
out.
an email that it deployed today, so I think we have a click it or ticket out right now.
Okay.
And then when the next wave is, we usually give public notice that we'll be out there doing click it and ticket enforcement.
No further questions.
Any comments from the public? None, back to the board, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Approved. Item B, to hear, consider and act on approving a grant agreement between the Connecticut Department of Transportation Highway Safety Office and the town of Fairfield for the Fairfield Police Department's comprehensive DUI enforcement program, and to further approve acceptance of the grant funds and their appropriation for the purposes set forth in the grant agreement. May I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, this is federal funds in the amount of $49,536 allocated to the comprehensive DUI enforcement program for the Fairfield Police Department, and this runs from November 7th, 2024 until September 6th, 2025. And what we do for this grant is we provide an entire calendar year of enforcement deployments, and this covers overtime for the officers to go out and do extra DUI enforcement during those periods of time.
Any comments or questions?
Yeah.
Any comments from the public? Seeing none, back to the board, all in favor say aye. Aye. Unanimous. Item C, to hear, consider and act on approving a grant agreement between the Connecticut Department of Transportation Highway Safety Office and the town of Fairfield for the Fairfield Police Department's Speed and Aggressive Driving Enforcement Program, and to further approve acceptance of the grant funds and their appropriation for the purposes set forth in the grant agreement. May I have a motion?
So moved.
Second. Chief.
These are federal funds in the amount of $49,962.10 that are allocated to speed and aggressive driving enforcement grant effective July 1, 2024, and goes through September 5th, 2024. And this is for obviously speed and aggressive driving enforcement.
I have none either. So to the public? Seeing none, back to the board. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Unanimous. Thank you.
Thanks, Chief.
My pleasure. Have a good evening.
Have a good one. Next up, interim CFO David Becker. This requires Board of Finance and RTM approval. Here, consider and act upon a reallocation of the American Rescue Act Plan, or ARPA, funds per Exhibit A attached in the backup. May I have a motion?
So moved.
Second, David.
Thank you. So this is the final reallocation.
Not gonna put there.
So let's pass this through the other two boards, starting next week at the Board of Finance and the following 2 weeks at the RTM. And that of course assumes that tonight gets through the RTM. So there are really only 3 categories at this stage. There's 5 that are getting adjustments from the last time you saw this, but there's really only 3 projects. So One of them is on the second page, line item number 12, townwide security upgrades for $133,695.16. That's a new project, not a new project per se, but just a project as far as ARPA buckets are going that. Also the 2024 master flood and erosion resiliency plan for $50,000. That is something that's been discussed at various meetings over the course of the year. And the other, so we're allocating a total of 50 in ARPA. That's a $400,000 project. 150,000 of that coming from bonding dollars that have already been authorized. That's later on the agenda as well to do a reallocation between bonds. The last one is police safe corridor program for $100,000, and that is an item that you guys have seen a few times, and we've been adding dollars kind of steadily since its creation. I think the feeling with this project is eventually, I guess if you send tons of money, it eventually not, but the program really the more support the better. It's been well received. It's rolling out with enhancements, and this ensures that it can continue to be enhanced and has some sustainment available. All of these projects can be safely encumbered or expended by the end of this year, and then within 2 years. Actually, the three that you're looking at will go out the door quite quickly in that world. So there are two other minor adjustments. One of them is a cleanup of $296.02 towards the fire replacement vehicle, and the Jenny Beach concession upgrades, $11,434.92. Downward is another cleanup financing project's been completed. But otherwise, you'll notice that page 4 of the document, there are no funds remaining to be allocated.
So, in case anyone watches this, just to remind people for the reasons behind this reallocation. So, lost track several years ago. Money was allocated, a large amount of money was allocated to Rooster River project, the largest, that required all sorts of approvals from state and federal agencies. It became obvious that we could not encumber those funds in time or risk losing those funds. Had to be encumbered before the end of this year and then spent by the end of next year, the year after, 2 years from now. And because we were not able to get the approvals necessary to encumber those significant funds before the end of this year, and other true ups and other line items, some items we needed more money, other items we couldn't make those projects happen, or they came in under budget. So these reallocations initially went to sort of an other category, and we were bringing in, over the last few months, have been bringing in projects that we knew could be completed before the end of the year. And so one of these projects, so that's why we're kind of doing this at the last minute. Not the last minute, but pretty close. We had to find projects that were encumberable, if that's a word, before the end of the year. And so this will be hopefully the last of our ARPA money, and hopefully we will not be giving up a dime of that money, because I see it nets to zero at this point if these these should all go through as planned. So that is that is why we're doing this and have done it several times over the last few months. The other is the flood and erosion master plan. That started in this schedule as something completely different. That was a high intensity wave study that had been approved for ARPA. It was $300,000 or $400,000. Over the course of the last year, and talking to coastal geomorphologists that are consultants, that high intensity wave study really wasn't appropriate, wasn't the best use of that money. But we decided with Flood and Erosion Control Board to embark on a comprehensive master plan for flood mitigation recommendations for the whole town, including rivers and the coastline. That was a very detailed process going out with the RFP in collaboration between the town, a third-party consultant, and the Flood and Erosion Control Board. Recently, we went out to bid and recently reviewed the submissions. We had 2 submissions from very, very high quality companies, consulting companies, and this extra amount is needed. So that is why we're allocating the additional 50,000. So that's where we are. But that project will be getting started soon. Any comments or questions?
Just to follow up on what you said, that the Rooster River, we bonded that, so the project is moving forward. So
right, and all along we said if it comes out of ARPA, it was going to be bonded, and it will be bonded.
So
all of it.
That has moving forward. Just at some point, I thought that we had talked about if for some reason this changes in the next month, and you find that there's balances in some accounts, there'd be a default to go to paving, because originally back in April, I think this was first before us with the Brewster River and reallocating, it was going to go to paving. I would hate to think that there's any money left on the table that doesn't get spent just because of not being able to get it approved by other town boards.
So when we put that balance into paving, the reason for that was it really was other. Like it really wasn't necessarily meant, like I think originally we put a few million in that category because it was really meant to come out of that at some point if other projects were identified. Yeah, go ahead.
It's more just right now, I think with the month left, if there's anything.
That is the one.
Not wanting left anything on the table.
We can encumber any leftover amount in paving through state contracts. And
I don't know if you wanted, just something to think about as it's going before other town boards.
So at some level, so if that was the case, in theory, we do then come back if it was before the end of the year. That would require all the boards, and we've heard initially months ago the boards wanted a 12, like a couple of days before the end of the year meeting or something to that effect. Then I started getting sort of pushback like, no, we're not doing that. Get your act together and earlier. And I would say, and this is get a moment to kind of just speak on we've spent an exorbitant amount of time in the background on this. And one is Sabrina and also UI. They have gone through and spent. I'm here presenting and I meet with them and early on I was kind of doing a lot of that. I mean I think back when Bill and I were sitting here with the spreadsheet back in January, really trying to get our hands around a lot of projects that weren't realistic. They have been down to the penny working with everybody. So you actually notice even in the last couple of rounds of this, there haven't been as many adjustments. Yeah, it's been much more targeted and getting realistic. So I can't say with 100% certainty, but we're generally there, and we are working with we're using our bond counsel for advising on ARPA because it moves a similar appropriation process. They're regularly across many clients working on some of those similar questions. Well, what happens, forget about between now and 12/31, what happens when something changes on something 2 months in? And the one thing that I can't give a ton of certainty around it, but the guidance that they're starting to get back is it's not that you're gonna be able to go find a new project, you're gonna be able to massively change something, but the feds understand that you're not gonna get left to dry if you're within some of your existing lines. So things like the paving line or some of these others may have an opportunity to do even, I'm not sure what the right term
I
will be
understand what
so far.
Okay.
But they are starting to recognize that minor adjustments when something goes completely wrong is much different than you didn't plan accordingly and try to do everything you possibly could, and at least have everything encumbered and check those boxes before. So there does seem to be some flexibility there.
If you're working within the existing schedule.
But that, yeah, I actually hadn't thought of that, and what I think I hear you saying is I mean, what comes to mind, and I'm sorry doing this at the table, is that if something were to happen, would we need to add something and say like, and if there, is on the off chance that there's extra money, we would be able to uncover that within paving. If that's not not practical at this point, like if something fell through.
Yeah, and I so this is the piece. So and not necessarily, so couple things. So one, paving, we didn't think that this is information early on, right? But when we first did it, we put everything into paving, not realizing we could actually do it unallocated, right? So that was in part on.
Which really made no difference, other than that when people saw that amount of paving, they always commented on it. It wasted a lot of.
Yes.
It always was like an other.
I wish it was in an unallocated from day
I
one.
just brought up paving because you guys said it could be spent
Yeah.
quickly. If
No,
we-
but you're right in that if one of these were
That's
to fall through, we would want to be able to, like at the 11th hour, we'd want to be able to encumber it.
But I would say, and if there was an additional line, and I'm not sure, but discuss and on council, which we certainly can do, is I would suggest not necessarily putting the specific to paving, but I would put something along the lines of the board authorizing to that reallocate within the allocations that, within the existing projects. Because what you may find as an example and much more sort of, bang for your buck would be that if you ran into an issue somewhere and it was $50,000, I'll give an example of the townwide security piece. That's something that they're always looking for more dollars. This is accelerating something that Dave's been working on for years, and there's other projects like that. The radio network as an example. There's dollars that we applied, to try to do that, but there's numerous other things that are in here, and I could go on. Those are just in front of me, but if you were to add something like that, the only caution I would say is it's entirely possible that another board strips that out, because there was a feeling amongst some boards that it didn't go before them, because some communities, as an example, have allowed up to a certain amount throughout this entire process to be reallocated by the administrations. Ours has taken the tack that specific to the schedule, end of story, no other buckets of funds. Now, maybe at the very end, the finish line, we're here, giving, that potential, is received okay by the other boards, that checks a box that we don't, we don't have a crystal ball and what the federal government will allow us, but not the worst thing yet.
So if we were to do that, you think it's okay for us to make an amendment, like at the end of this, saying, in the event that any of the amounts on Schedule A cannot be encumbered before December 31st, 2024, we without additional approval, reallocate the balance to one of the existing items in the schedule?
I would broaden it so that if something occurs,
which at that point would probably be paving, because that might be the only thing we can actually execute on overnight.
Well, and I'm more, yeah.
Yeah, well, I think that, and I apologize for really just bringing this on you at the table.
I think it's a fair question.
But I think that if you want to talk to bond counsel or talk to, your team, as it goes, this conversation could be taken up with one of the other boards, and if they approve it pending Board of Selectmen approval, it could always come back to us, because I think that we're
We
pretty.
don't want to lock in the bad language.
We're pretty quick to be able to meet remotely.
Okay. Yeah, that's good.
Okay.
Cool. Any other comments?
No, just thank you for all of your hard work on this, and really appreciate all the wonderful things that we're doing with this money to better our town.
Sabrina and Eli, yourself, and all the department heads. Any comments from the public? See none, back to the board. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Thank you, David. Don't go anywhere. So to hear, consider, this interim CFO requires Board of Finance and RTM approval to consider, and adopt a resolution amending and restating a resolution entitled, a resolution appropriating $3,717,899 for the costs of certain non-recurring capital projects and authorizing the issuance of bonds to finance such appropriation. To increase the appropriation and bond authorization for the Jennings Beach project by $100,000 for a total appropriation and bond authorization under the resolution of $3,817,899, and to expand the scope of the Jennings Beach project. May I have a motion? Seconded.
So this is the flood project that we discussed a moment ago. So this is essentially there's a $250,000 allocation that was related to the flood study, and then there was also a separate $100,000. They lived in two different non-recurring years. What we're looking to do is take the $250,000 allocation and increase it by $100,000, so it's now in one single bucket. The other thing that we're doing is broadening the scope of it, and sort of largely by retitling the project. So now it would be titled 2024 Master Flood Prevention, Climate Resilience and Erosion Control Plan. So it'd be a single $350,000 project. One thing that is not occurring at this moment is deauthorizing the other 100,000. But that our intent is that would typically be done by the Board of Finance, and we would if they want to do it right on the spot, they can certainly ask for that. We were intending to do that when we are periodically we go to them and have them do deauthorizing and balancing categories on projects like the non-recurring. So we'd ask them to do that at that same time. We have no intention of spending the 100. The extra 50,000 that's needed would come from the ARP allocation. That passes through the remaining boards to get us to the 400. So a little bit of housekeeping, but all tied to this effort. And the first Selectmen I mentioned, we discussed under ARPA on a scale accuracy purposes. We're at a 10 at this point, in that this is actually gone out. We have our dollars, and we've added some for potential additional pieces within it. So that's where the 400 comes.
Yeah. So not spending more, just consolidating, cleaning it up. Yeah. Question. Any comments from the public? Seeing none, back to the board. All in favor, say aye. Thank you, David. Unanimous. And motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Wow, that was really a pleasant meeting.